You're watching the New York Giants Fan Show on Fan Media Network. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, and today we are going to discuss the schedule release for the New York Giants 2021 season after they came off a 6-10 season where they just barely missed the playoffs after the final regular season game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington football team of the 2020 season. Joining us is Mike Anderson, a Jets fan but a Giants supporter, and he's here to help me discuss the Giants schedule and what we should expect from the team based on their upcoming schedule for this upcoming season. So, Mike, thank you for joining me today, and how's things going?
Oh, things are just going great over here. How are you, Zach?
I'm doing very well, especially for our first episode of the New York Giants fan show. So, let's
Absolutely.
kick it off by starting off with this first question. Giants fans really thinking over the last few months that they were going to start their season at home against the Philadelphia Eagles after all the hoopla that's pretty much started since the final regular season game of 2020. But after everything, it turns out that the Giants' first opponent will be at home, but it's not the Eagles. It will be against the Denver Broncos. So even though it's not what we expected, how can we view this first matchup between what seems to be a completely replenished Broncos team playing against a newly refurbished Giants team?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Zach, because, first of all, yes, the Giants fans definitely did want some revenge on the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, a lot of Giants fans look at the Eagles as though they are the ones who costed them the division last year with that questionable Nate Sudfeld over Jalen Hurts decision. But
Yep.
anyway, yeah, so the Denver Broncos, they were a laughing stock last year on paper, right? They were 5-11 or 6-10,
I
fourth
think,
place in the AFC West. They had that game where they had to start a practice squad wide receiver at the quarterback
and
position.
now he's gone
Henson.
because of his torn Achilles or ACL.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. But you know what, though? That's not the real Broncos. That's not who they really were.
Mm-mm.
At full health on paper, this Denver Broncos team can potentially vie for a playoff spot. I mean, they're getting back Cortland Sutton. They've already got Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler at the wide receiver position, Melvin Gordon in the backfield, Noah Fant at tight end. And they traded for a veteran quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater. They got a couple of good offensive linemen. I like Garrett Bowles at left tackle, and then that defense is really competitive. So they're getting Von Miller back. They got Bradley Chubb coming off the edge. It's not as easy a matchup as it may seem. Having said that, the Giants do catch a break. They are at home, I believe, right? They're hosting the New York Denver Broncos.
Yes,
So
they are.
so that'll be a good break for them to catch. I think that the Giants and the Broncos are about equally they're equally equipped. They are about as strong as one another. So I think that the Giants can begin their season with a close victory. Maybe that'll be like a low scoring 20-17 type game that the Giants can win.
So, according to the NFL statistics over the last few weeks, it has been determined that the Giants are within the top 10 easiest schedules this season out of every other 32 teams based on their opponents' finished record from 2020. They but in their 17 games actually, as part of the new rule for this upcoming season in the NFL, they will still have 8 home games, but one additional road game, which will make it at 9 road games. So, Mike, how do you see this as a big challenge for the Giants in this upcoming season as well?
Yeah, I mean that opponent's winning percentage, it's usually a pretty accurate thing to follow, but don't be fooled by it. The Giants have a really difficult schedule this year. I mean, first of all, with the 17 games, the uneven number of games, they don't catch the break, right? You mentioned they have 9 road games. They have more road games than home games. And just take a look at who they're playing on the road. The Washington football team, the New Orleans Saints, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think they're very good. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Miami Dolphins, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, they're all
Okay.
pretty good, and
Now
they
you
even
can
made
take
playoffs too.
you can take the Eagles and the Cowboys out of that, but all of those teams that they're playing on the road are really good teams. I mean, the Chargers are going to be good this year, and the Washington football team
Right.
had a top 5 defense last year.
Chase Young
And
pretty
then
much
they
led
bring
right there.
Right. And then they bring in William Jackson at the cornerback position. And then they sign veteran quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. They bring in wide receiver Curtis Samuel to accompany wide receiver Terry McLaurin. They have Logan Thomas, who played well for them at tight end last year. Two good running backs with Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick, who's also a good pass catcher himself. They brought in a good slot receiver and Adam Humphries. That Washington team is really upgraded, and it's gonna cause a lot of problems. They're going to be the number one foe for the New York Giants this year in the NFC East. And then, of course, obviously they have to face the reigning two-time AFC champion Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. Again, go out west to play the Chargers and Justin Herbert coming off of the greatest rookie season for a quarterback ever. It's going to be tough. Chicago Bears up when it's cold, week 17. It's not a good time to be playing the Bears on the road, right? So
No, not at all. I mean, when was the last time that the Giants even like had to play like a game that could be as frigid as the one in Chicago, like in late December or to
yeah,
even begin the new year?
can't remember,
It's been like a very long time, and sometimes I mean I think about how cold games can be, like when the Vikings and the Seahawks play each other in 2016. That wild card that was so frigid. There was like even a guy who was like, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's just
yeah.
stick with the Giants and all. But yeah, I mean, Giants may not be used to it, and that could pose a potential problem.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to pose problems for them. Luckily, though, they do get to play the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles 4 times this year in
It's as they
total.
usually do against foes,
Yeah,
and don't
yeah,
forget Washington as
because
well.
I think that Dallas's defense is horrible, and I think that Philadelphia is perhaps the third worst, second worst team in the NFL. So the Giants are going to get some breaks there. But yeah, that it's a difficult schedule. It doesn't matter what the opponent's winning percentage was from last year. It's a difficult schedule.
So let's go more in depth now to the Giants team itself as we continue to probably put some more marks on their schedule. We know that this Giants team is going to try and have their own method of being replenished. It starts up with a defense that was top 10 in the NFL last year, pretty much the best that the Giants defense has looked since 2016 when it practically lifted the whole team to the playoffs. And because of how there were many star players at that time, you start with at that point it was Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins, and
Yeah, and Snacks and
Brandon
JPP,
Collins too.
Olivier Vernon. Yeah, they had some good players, but
It's a
this
long time ago.
they've got a really good defense now, and they upgraded on defense too. They signed cornerback Adoree Jackson. They brought in they brought back Logan Ryan. Xavier McKinney is going to be fully healthy this year. He only played 6 games last year, I think, so he's
And
going to
to
be
think he
back
had
fully
that
healthy.
crucial game-winning interception against the Dallas Cowboys in the regular season finale. I mean, I was hoping that he would be a big star before he pretty much broke his ankle before the
Yeah,
season even began.
second round pick. I mean, he's very talented, and the Giants are going to get 17 games of him. Hopefully, again, Logan Ryan coming back, Jabril Peppers. You got James Bradbury, who's a shutdown corner. Blake Martinez is a great run stuffer at the middle linebacker position. You got two really good run stuffing DNs and Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. That defense is going to be really good again this year. And then the offense, they have so many weapons now for Danny Dimes. I mean, they bring in Kenny Galladay from Detroit. They already have Darius Slayton, who's a tall, fast speedster who has some pretty good chemistry with Daniel Jones.
And,
Then
and
then you got Sterling Shepard, who's one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. Saquon Barkley comes back from his ACL tear.
we really was kind of stumped because when the Giants could not bring back Wayne Gallman and lost him to free agency, but there are some running backs that can back up Barkley that I'm not actually disappointed with. It starts off with Devontae Booker. He has great NFL experience, and I think he had the most when he was with the Broncos. And you also get this newest addition that the Giants just got, Corey Clement, who was a former Eagle, and he was pretty good when he was as
He was a Super
backing
Bowl
up
hero.
Miles Sanders. And then last but not least, this maybe not too much of a name he wasn't really too much of a name this past season with Jacksonville, but Raquel Armstead, I got a feeling there's something about him that it could be interesting enough if he's going to be a third string running back
Well, he
behind
was the
Booker.
COVID. He got COVID really bad last year, so I'm not sure. We haven't seen too much of Raquel Armstead in the NFL this year, but also at the tight end position, Evan Ingram kind of got a gift of a Pro Bowl season last year.
And
Maybe
Calvin
this year,
Benjamin's also going to be listed as a tight end, which is pretty
yes,
interesting. The same way that Tim Tebow is going to be a tight end for the Jaguars
Well,
after
not
he was a
quite the
quarterback.
same though. Definitely not the same background. But yeah, I mean, Booger McFarland once infamously said that Kelvin Benjamin is a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. So it looks like Kelvin Benjamin finally had that
When does
Popeye's
McFarland
biscuit.
ever say anything that's pretty amusing enough? Because some people do make fun of it.
Yeah. But the Giants also signed Kyle Rudolph, who's a longtime veteran and a multi-time Pro Bowler. So
Starts
he'll
off with
be able
Brett
to get his
Ellenson
turn.
as a tight end from Minnesota, and then you get Rudolph. So Giants aren't letting go of that little Minnesota get.
Yeah. And then I also like Caden Smith. So they've got a couple of good possession tight ends who I really like. That's just in case Evan Engram doesn't work out because he might not. He's a big pass dropper. You got a lot of really good receivers. But again, the offensive line did not get better. As a matter of fact, it was bad last year and it got worse. They didn't bring in an offensive guard or a center. Will Hernandez regressed last year. Andrew Thomas had a bad rookie year. Nate Solder's considering retirement. So they're going to lose a lot of battles at the line of scrimmage this year. That's why I really think that their schedule is going to hurt them
And
because
brings
they've got a lot of good defensive lines that they have to play against, and they're going to lose a lot of those battles up front, and it's going to trickle down. And I don't know if Daniel Jones has the willpower to overcome a bunch of pressure in his face, even with the receivers he's got, even with the running back he has, even with the tight ends he could dump the ball off to. I don't know if it's going to be enough. So we'll see, though.
So let's move to our last topic, which is our schedule predictions. After everything we talked about with who the Giants are playing, who they have this upcoming season, I'll start off. We did talk about how the road could be probably the biggest enemy for the Giants in their upcoming season, but you know that they need to figure out how they can utilize their weapons properly because every player at its height, at its best, can really lift his team. And if that's going to be the case this season, if the Giants do figure it out under their second-year head coach and Joe Judge, then their ceiling is 12-5, which could be an NFC East title. But if you think I'm getting too ahead of myself, then I can start going a little more realistically around 10-7.
Yeah, I do believe that their ceiling is around 10-7, but right now, again, with the offensive line woes and the question mark at quarterback, I've got them at 8-9 right now. And most of that is because of the road games that I believe they're going to lose. Those are some really tough matchups that you would want to be the home team for, not the road team. So I've got the Giants at 8-9 right now. I think that the Washington football team wins that division again. But hey, I mean, this Giants team, I have a feeling, really has the potential to answer those questions. Even though we have some question marks on Daniel Jones, I think that he can answer some of them. So I do believe that they could potentially reach their potential, go 10-7, maybe 11-6. So we'll see, though.
And we'll see. We'll see starting Sunday, September 12th, when they host the Denver Broncos at MetLife Stadium at 4:25. That will wrap it up, and that will do it for us here. Mike Anderson, Zach Wilson, thank you for tuning in to the New York Giants Fan Show on Fan Media for episode 1, the schedule release. Our next episode will be announced at a later date, but until then, you all have a good time, ladies and gentlemen.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic in team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.